Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Thank you everyone for joining us for this webinar. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Oldways, we're a nonprofit nutrition education organization whose mission is to inspire people to embrace the healthy and sustainable joys of the old ways of eating. We're well known for creating the whole grain stamp and the Oldways Whole Grains Council. So that's why we have a really exciting whole grain topic for you all today. Oops. So before we get going, I just want to go over a few housekeeping notes. Yes, this webinar is being recorded, and we will share the recording as well as the slides with you within 1 week. We'll post them on our website and oldwayspt.org/CPEU. And you will also receive an email within 1 week of this webinar with the recording, the slides, as well as information about how to access your CPEU certificate. A huge shout out to the Quaker Oats Company, a unit of PepsiCo, for sponsoring this session. We're really excited to bring it to you today. And please do mark your calendars for our next webinar, which will be on November 16th about health economics and how whole grains can help save money. And we will be having time for a question and answer session at the end of this webinar. So if you have any questions at all, just type them into the chat box at the bottom of your Zoom screen, and we'll get through as many as we're able. Thank you so much to the Quaker Oats Company for sponsoring this session. We do want to remind you that the views and opinions provided by the speakers are solely their own and do not express the views or opinions of the Quaker Oats Company. And now I'm happy to introduce you to our two esteemed speakers. Born and raised in Taiwan, Dr. Yifeng Chu is currently the Director of Health and Nutrition Sciences at PepsiCo, where he is responsible for global foods research. Dr. Chu is an elected fellow at the American College of Nutrition and holds adjunct professorship at the University of Manitoba. Yifeng serves on the board of directors for the Grain for Health Foundation and Advisory Board of University of Illinois, Division of Nutritional Sciences. Dr. Chu is the inaugural editor-in-chief of IFT Food Science and Nutrition Online and serves on the editorial boards of Frontier in Nutritional Immunology, Food Chemistry, and Food Science and Nutrition. He is the editor of 2 books, Oats, Nutrition and Technology, and Coffee, Emerging Health Effects and Disease Prevention, and is a member of the IFT Press Advisory Board. His Oats book has been translated into Chinese by Beijing Medical University. Yifeng has co-authored over 80 journal articles, reviews, patents, and book chapters. He received his PhD from Cornell and MBA from the Kellogg School of Management at Northwestern University. And then our next speaker after will be Dawn Jackson Blattner. Dawn Jackson Blattner is a registered dietitian nutritionist and certified specialist in sports dietetics. She also has a certificate of training in integrative and functional nutrition through the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. She is the author of 2 books, The Flexitarian Diet, ranked as a top plant-based diet by US News and World Report, and her newest book, The Superfood Swap. Dawn is on the advisory board of Shape Magazine and is a celebrity diet consultant for People Magazine. She is a trusted expert, appearing regularly in local and national media outlets such as The Today Show and Good Morning America, and she starred in and won the primetime reality TV show on ABC called My Diet is Better Than Yours. Dawn worked as the head dietitian for the Chicago Cubs for 10 years, hosted an Emmy-nominated TV show in Chicago for 3 seasons, and this year won the Media Excellence Award from the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. So with that, I will hand it over to our first speaker.
Thank you for the introduction, Kelly, and for having me here today. As Kelly mentioned, I've been doing oat research in the past decade and edited a book on this topic. But here's one data point you may not know. I eat oatmeal every day. I put 3-4 spoons of old-fashioned oat in my morning smoothies. 6 days a week. And Sunday is my cheat day, so I can eat whatever I want. So this is today's learning objective. Growing the oat from the very left. Oat grow best in cool weather with long sunny days and well-drained fertile soil. The growing process begins in the spring when farmers, including Quaker's 400 direct growers, start the seeding process. The harvesting process begins in late summer, early fall, weather permitting. In testing the oat, samples of oats are tested and ensure it meets Quaker standard in the field. And a representative sample of oat from every rail cart or truck is evaluated in our proprietary oat grading lab in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, where Quaker's mill is located. The operation tests for grain moisture, size, and composition among several other parameters. Storing the oats are then stored in grain bins on the farm or driven directly to the elevator where they are stored in bins until it's time for them to be loaded into rail car for transit to Cedar Rapids. And transporting the oat, the rail cars hold 500 bushels or 160,000 pounds, then travel for 10 to 12 days to reach the Cedar Rapids plant. And separating the oat, depending on test result, oats are separated into storage bins and then blended to meet nutrition claims and to make the best oat product. Cleaning the oat. As the raw oats are taken from storage, the first step is cleaning to remove any non-oat material, such as other grains like wheat, barley, or granola that may be present during the harvesting, storage, and transportation of the raw oats. And getting to the groat, after cleaning, the protective outer coat called the hull is removed to get to the inner groat, which is the edible part of the whole grain. Kilning the groat then goes through Quaker's unique kilning process, which heats the oat using steam as the heat source. The process is vital for oat processing as it deactivates natural occurring enzymes, toasts the oat for flavor, and reduces the moisture when needed. Cutting and flaking the groats. Kilned groats are ready to be cut and flaked into a variety of Quaker products. So now, a common question we often get is regarding the different oat variety and whether or not there are differences in terms of nutrition and processing. But the answer is that all oat used in each variety of Quaker oat, whether it's old-fashioned, quick, instant, and steel cut, are 100% whole grain. In terms of nutrition, on an ounce per ounce basis, all oats are have very similar amount of fiber, vitamin, and minerals, but they differ in shape, texture, and cook time. As you will soon learn on the next slide, there are differences between the various oat cuts in how they are milled. Oat flakes. The most common product is the oat flake, which include Quaker's old-fashioned oat, instant oatmeal, and quick cooking oat. By rolling the groat in a flake, the cooking time is reduced from hours to minutes. The flaking process involves steaming the groat and passing them between two large flaking or pressing rolls. So we're talking about flaking. The goal is to make the oat flake of the correct thickness to meet the desired cooking time for the product. If a shorter cooking time is desired, like quick or instant oat, the same wholesome groat will be cut into smaller pieces before flaking. In the cut groat, in the oat cutting process, the groat are cut crosswise into smaller pieces. This is done on specialized machines called cutters, which use steel knives, and the resulting product is called steel cut oats. And the cutting process was developed by Ferdinand Schumacher, one of the founders of the Quaker Oat company back in 1875, and has gone through many improvements since then as technology has advanced. And those improvements has helped increase the efficiency of milling steel cut oat to keep up with the growing popularity of oat variety. At Quaker, we know that for some people, a gluten-free diet is important and necessary. That's why we've taken the time and effort to develop a gluten-free oatmeal using innovative technology that adhere to the FDA quality and safety standard. And you can look for the specially marked gluten-free packages. Oats are inherently gluten-free, however, in the field, and while they are being transported, straight gluten-containing grains like wheat, rye, or barley may make their way into oats. With more than 140 years of milling experience, our team of experts developed a breakthrough cleaning technology to sort and clean oats to ensure that Quaker gluten-free oat can be enjoyed and trusted by those leading a gluten-free lifestyle. Oats are a nutritious food, and the more we studied it, the more we learn about its potential. Oats' total fiber content, including beta-glucan and whole grain goodness, make them uniquely positioned to deliver on modern nutrition wants: heart health, digestive health, and energy, which we'll dive in later. While we can spend the full hour discussing the health benefit of oats, I know Don has some great content ahead, so we'll briefly touch on a few of these key benefits. Cardiovascular health, the most well-known benefit. Research showed that 3 grams of soluble fiber found in oat, known as beta-glucan, help reduce LDL cholesterol level, which may in turn help reduce the risk of coronary artery disease when as part of the overall diet, lowering set fat and cholesterol. Research suggests there is more than one mechanism by which oat helps support the heart health. First, beta-glucan help lower blood cholesterol by triggering the liver to pull LDL cholesterol from bloodstream for excretion and binding some of the cholesterol in your digestive tract, preventing it from ever entering the bloodstream. Secondly, recent research also suggests this effect is in part due to the ability of beta-glucan prebiotic fiber to increase beneficial bacteria in the gut, which may influence cholesterol metabolism. 3 grams of soluble fiber from oatmeal can provide this prebiotic effect. Additionally, the role of oat in blood pressure regulation is a growing area of research that some studies suggested a positive effect of beta-glucan on blood pressure levels. And while research has suggested beneficial association between oat, beta-glucan, and blood pressure, the topic is still evolving and more large-scale, long-term studies are needed. Oatmeal has been shown to enhance feeling of satiety, possibly due to the viscosity of beta-glucan fiber. Findings from a number of studies have shown that compared to ready-to-eat cereal, oatmeal was associated with a significantly greater feeling of fullness, less feeling of hunger, and slow gastric emptying, as well as lower calorie consumption at the next meal. And two smaller studies conducted in healthy and overweight subjects suggested beta-glucan may help reduce short-term appetite by regulating hunger hormones released by the gut. The combined effect of the increased feeling of satiety and reduced appetite may contribute to reduce overall calories that are consumed throughout the day. And all the studies are included in the reference in the deck that you will be able to find. As part of the overall healthy lifestyle, the soluble fiber in oatmeal may help support healthy weight management. Managing a healthy weight is about making sensible choices every day, including getting exercise and being mindful of what you eat, such as including whole grain fruit and vegetable and lean proteins. And research has also shown that including 3 grams of soluble fiber from oatmeal as part of the diet may help. And the study is just being published today in Critical Review of Food Science and Nutrition, a very highly ranked journal. Blood glucose management. Additionally, emerging research suggests that oat may have impact on blood glucose management. Results from clinical research suggest that oat consumption may help improve blood glucose management and insulin sensitivity in patients with type 2 diabetes. While this study showed promising association of oat beta-glucan consumption and glycemic control, more long-term, high-quality randomized control studies are needed. And next up, we'll be hearing from Don Jackson Blattner, who you just Kelly introduced to discuss more oat nutrition trends and best practice for communicating science to consumers. Please join me in welcome Don.
Well, hey, thanks so much for all of that very important science. I'm taking over now to talk about oat nutrition, the trends, and communicating the science. Welcome to my office here in Chicago. I'm excited to be with you today. So let's just first off go over, oh, look at that. Let's just first off go over what I'm talking about and why I'm doing it. Most of my career has been doing media and like nutrition communication. And I've created some best practices for doing that. And so I wanted to share them with you. And I do want to remind you, we heard this at the beginning, but all throughout my presentation, my views and my opinions are my own, and they are not shared with the Quaker Oats company. So anyway, big fan of Quaker Oats, and let's talk about my first topic here. And that is, we've heard all of this research that Yi Fang talks about. We heard about the production of oats, but now how are we going to share this with our audiences, with our clients? How are we going to take it and make it, you know, can we do a dietitian joke? Make it digestible for everybody, okay? So what I've created is this tool that I am very proud of. It is called a communication sandwich. And of course, there is oat flour in that bread, if you're wondering. But the communication sandwich for me really works for communicating anything food and nutrition that I want to talk to my audience and my clients about. It's basically this 3-step checklist in my mind. So here's what it is. And just to give you a quick flag on this, we will be talking and you will be seeing this sandwich throughout the entire presentation. So hope you love it. So the first part here is where you start is the top piece of bread. This is who cares. So anytime you're giving information to your audience and clients, you want to first say, did I tell them why this is important to them? What problem it's solving for them? You know, how does it make their life easier or better? That will get people to listen or to read what you're about to say, right? So you want to always start with this, who cares? What's in it for me, okay? Then I go with the ABC filling, and ABC stands for accurate, basic, and creative. Accurate means, of course, did you fact check it and use the most trustworthy trustworthy source, right? Not just like a blogger you sort of trust, all right? Like, are we going to PubMed? Are we really getting the science here? When I say basic as distributing information to our consumers, what I mean is simple, like 3 or 4 points, sort of like how you remember a phone number, right? Like 3 numbers, then 4. 3 or 4 points is about what people can take. You don't want to have jargon, you know, dietitians love a little jargon in there. We want to cut that out. You know, how would you explain it to a friend or a family member? And then get creative, right? If, for example, you've heard the same thing a million times or seen it a million times, it's probably boring to you and it's probably boring to your audience. So can you add, you know, a personal story, an interesting stat, a meaningful comparison, a new idea or recipe, or like this, you know, a fun little sandwich visual that can get you to remember something, right? And then finally, the bottom piece of bread is your call to action. People want to be inspired to act. So before you get off of your client meeting, or before you are finishing up your article that you're writing or the social media post, what do you want people to do? Give them that sort of first next step and they will appreciate it. So we're going to talk about this communication sandwich because I believe it is the thing you need to take all of that research and science and make people love it, understand it, and use it. So first up, I'm going to serve you my first sandwich of the day, okay? And this is where we're going to talk about oat similarities and differences. So we have already heard some of this, but let me tell you how I explain it to people. And why should you care, actually, right? The top piece of bread is like, why should you care about this? Well, people have different oat preferences and they do not know the nutrition similarities and differences. And as we all know, with everything nutrition related, there is so much misinformation out there that it's important that we care about the similarities and differences. So then when it comes to the actual ABC filling, what am I going to give you? Okay, so I talked about why you should care about this. And now I'm going to give you the accurate, basic, creative way to talk about it. This is what I have basically memorized every time a client asks me about oats. I say ounce for ounce, all oats, whether it's instant, quick, old-fashioned, steel cut, are. Here are my 3 points. 100% whole grain, good source of fiber, contains similar amounts of essential vitamins and minerals. So that no matter what their preference, they can feel like, oh, you know, there are these similarities here. Now, when it comes to differences, that really is just in shape and texture and cooking time. So I say, okay, fine. I care about this. It's important because people are confused and there's misinformation. Here are the facts. But now here is my call to action to you. Okay, once we know all this, what can you do with it that actually will help people, right? So I took all the stuff that I know and I created a cheat sheet, right? You don't have to do this when you're talking to people, but I like a good cheat sheet. And this has all the similarities at the top, right? We talked about the essential vitamins and minerals, the 100% whole grain, good source of fiber. And then at the bottom of the cheat sheet, it's the differences, right? The shape, which is like the description. You can even see the little pictures of each of the oats and what they look like. The cooking instructions are different. The texture is different. So I really highlight that they have so many similarities like we've learned about, but they also have enough of these differences that you probably need a cheat sheet to help you. So that was your first sandwich from me going through the oat similarities and differences. So 1 sandwich is good, 2 even better, and I'm going to even do 3 today. So let's go through sandwich number 2. And this is all about oat nutrition. Now, we've heard a lot of this already, but again, my role in this is taking all of that and saying, how do I use my nutrition communication background and actually deliver it in a way that people get excited about taking action and understand it and remember it. So the first thing that I will say to you is, who cares? Like, why should we even care about talking about oat nutrition? I mean, there's so many things to talk about in this world. I mean, why should we care about oats? Well, let me give you some stats to perhaps pique your interest about this, right? So alarming, whole grain gap is real, okay? 98% of Americans do not meet the dietary guidelines to make half of their grains whole, okay? So that's one, whoa, okay? That's a stat. Fiber gap also is very real. 90% of women 97% of men do not meet the recommended intakes for dietary fiber. So we've got this whole grain gap, we've got this fiber gap, and interestingly, people actually want to increase their fiber, that they just don't know where to start. They think it's going to be hard. They don't think it's going to taste good. So it's like, maybe we should care about this because people are struggling and they want to fix this. So here's what we know. In terms of who cares, we know that oats are whole grain and fibrous, right? They can fill these gaps. That when we think about all the different types of choices and preferences for people, they're all whole grain and they're all a good source of fiber. And they have thiamine and phosphorus and magnesium, and inherently sodium-free, cholesterol-free, low in fat and saturated fat. So I just think that this is a topic we should be talking about because of all of the reasons I just said, right? So that's your who cares, why should we talk about this stuff? Well, let's get to the filling. You now see how the sandwich goes, right? Who cares? Sandwich filling, call to action. So here's your sandwich filling, the accurate, basic, creative way to think about oat nutrition. So instead of thinking, oh my gosh, there's so many benefits of it, you know what? I just like to put in 3 nice, tidy buckets with cute little icons that really help people understand the nutrition behind the oat, right? There's heart health, there's digestion, and there's energy, right? And so those 3 buckets, again, thinking about keeping things simple and memorable is very helpful. So let's go into each one of these buckets and just talk a little bit more, although we did get such great information at the top of this webinar about cholesterol and blood pressure benefits and how the oat works in that. I also don't want you to forget that the relationship between oatmeal and heart health, that relationship was the very first food specific health claim that the FDA approved. So we see this on packages all the time, and maybe forget how special it is, but the claim actually says soluble fiber from oatmeal as a daily part of a diet low in saturated fat and cholesterol may reduce the risk of heart disease. 3 grams daily are needed for this benefit. And I noticed in the Q&A, as I was sort of scrolling through, somebody was like, how much soluble fiber is in this stuff? So here at the bottom, you see 2 grams in uncooked, right? Of the half a cup of the quick, half a cup of old fashioned, 1/4 of a cup of steel cut. And then there's 1 gram in the original instant oatmeal packet. So I'm talking about not total fiber, that's just the soluble fiber that links up with that heart health, food specific health claim. So when you're thinking about needing that stat somewhere, there it is for you. Now let's talk about that second bucket. This is digestion, right? So dietary fiber from whole grains like oats help support a healthy digestive system. We know this. But something that has come across my mind is that there are some people that actually it's even harder for them to get the fiber that they need. So those people like the following a gluten-free diet or a low FODMAP diet, they're having not only the struggles that everybody does, right, with getting enough fiber and whole grains, maybe they have extra. So I wanted to alert you and make sure you knew that Quaker has gluten-free oats in that specially marked package. So you can see those 4 gluten-free oat varieties right there on your screen in the photos. And then I don't know if you had this Monash University app. It's pretty cool. I have it on my phone. And this is where you could see what's high and low in FODMAPs. And you'll see that select products are certified as low FODMAP in the Quaker when you search all the Quaker oats. So that's some good stuff to know, again, in terms of a resource when you're working with people with gluten-free or FODMAPs, you have these resources at your fingertips. Now let's get into the third bucket. This is energy, which I feel like everybody talks about and needs, right? And so there was a recent study, again, all of these are in the end of the presentation, so you can have them in our slide deck. But this study did in fact find this oats are slowly absorbed supply of energy over a 2 or 3 hour period. So when we say that, it's like, well, is that really true? It's like, yes, actually, this is really true. I've said it, and now there is actually science to back that up. And this may be in part to that beta glucan that we've heard about already, the soluble fiber in oatmeal, that it can potentially help slow digestion, slow the release of glucose into the bloodstream, and then provide that slower, more steady supply of energy. So those are the 3 buckets that we talked about, right? So that was my sandwich filling for you. Now, what's next, you guys, right? It's the call to action. So my call to action for you is there's a lot to talk about when it comes to oats. And there's a lot to talk about when it comes to the oat nutrition. So what I like to do is when there's like an overwhelming amount of information, I sort of pick and choose things that I find to be pretty important to my audience or to clients. And I love a good infographic. This very clearly, I mean, and it's cute how it says power of oats, but this really has a lot of the stuff that we talked about visually very interesting so that people can pick it up and feel good again about understanding what oats are doing when they are putting them in their diet, putting them in their body, right? So that's your call to action. Are you guys ready? Sandwich number 3. This is very exciting. This one is all about trends. So, you know, I started with the similarities and differences. Then I talked all about the oat nutrition. And now this is trends. So why should we care about trends? Why should we care, right? That's the first piece of bread. Well, the first thing to say about trends are people are interested in them, right? They're trends because people think it's cool and they're following them and they're naturally interested. So that's one reason to sort of look at a trend and put our nutrition information along with it. But the other thing that I think is pretty important when it comes to talking about trends is, am I giving consumers, my audience, my clients, trends that they can actually do, right? Is it doable? And a very interesting recent study came out looking at NHANES data and found that oatmeal is one of the most cost-effective whole grains. So that to me is a really important element here, is that not only do I want to be on trend, I want to make sure that this is attainable, you know, for all of us, right? That it's more inclusive. So I think that is such a good point, that this is, you know, an affordable way to get whole grains into your diet. So that's your who cares. It's cool to follow trends, and talking about oats in a trends format is doable to people on an affordability level. Now, before I get to my trends, I am wondering if you could do something in the chat, okay? I notice a lot of you have already played around in the chat, but I would love, before I talk about the trends that I see, to know what your favorite, most creative, it could be either one of those, ways to eat and use oats is. So in the chat box, just, you know, for the next 30 seconds or something, would you do me a favor and throw some ideas out there of how you eat oats regularly or creative? Oh, baked oats. Oh my gosh, we're going to talk about that good one. Smoothies, oh, griddle cakes, energy balls, overnight oats, homemade granola, protein balls. I love that. Slow cooker. Ooh, I like that. Something with pumpkins I saw. You guys, this is so great. Baked oatmeal, pumpkin banana bread. Could I come over for that? Pizza crust, good one. Oh, this is so the fun. See, I knew this was going to be a creative group. And sometimes you do it with groups and you ask them to use the chat box and they don't know any ideas. And look at you guys just keep coming. Dinner rolls is a good one. I just did a recipe with oats and dinner rolls. Fruit crisp topping. Yes, please. This is so fun. And this is what it is all about, I think. You know, there's so many, oh, vegan meatballs. Yes. I could go on and on. This makes me so excited. Ooh, soups is an interesting one. Oh, you have a lot of the trends. You guys are already doing a lot of the trends. So here's why I love what you were just doing, is it shows just how versatile this whole grain is. Oh, it keeps going. Meatloaf, pumpkin pie, love it. It's really versatile. So let me take you through the 7 trends that I see. This is sort of my filling part of the talk. So I talked about why trends are important, who cares, and now this is the sort of basics of what's out there. So the 7 trends that I see a lot and you see a lot. The first one, somebody already mentioned this too. Oh, Sloppy Joe's, that's a good one. TikTok famous baked oats. Now for each one of the trends, I've also included what type of oats, since we've spent so much time talking about type of oat and the similarities and differences. So I wanted to make sure that I called out what type of oat you would use in each one of these trends. So the TikTok famous baked oats, either using old fashioned or quick oats, so hot. People love it because the texture is very cake-like. And I did a social media famous baked oats Instagram reel, and people loved it. And you know, there's many ways that you can flavor it. And so this is one example of how you can take a nutrition message that you want to give and say, oh my gosh, you know, this is an exciting time for me to like help with all that misinformation out there about oats, and do my own reel. Another big trend you see is basically protein, right? Protein, how am I gonna get enough protein? Where do I get protein? How can I add protein? So one of the trends you'll see is adding protein to oats. And you can use any type of oat for this. And this is an example of a social media post that I did where it's you take your oats and then you could add protein powder to it. You could add eggs to it. You could add nut butter, milk, Greek yogurt to add protein, which is what a lot of consumers are looking for, right? So this is a quick, call to action for people of like, hey, you're looking for this. This is a trend. Here's how to do it in a quick visual way. Another trend I see and is not going anywhere. This is I say oldie but goodie, and it's here to stay. That's smoothies and oat bites. A lot of those in the chat. We even know that Yifeng was talking about putting oats in his smoothie. And the reason why, and again, call out the old fashioned, quick and instant are really what people use in these trends. These are both social media posts of mine. On the right-hand side, that is a smoothie, and oats are great for thickening in a smoothie, but also adding the fiber. Plus, I am wearing every bracelet that I have in that picture. So really colorful and fun. Then the bites I added turmeric into my bites because, on trend is a lot of people talking about turmeric. I was like, okay, hey, bites are on trend. So is turmeric, putting them together so that people can then say, oh, I want to try that. And it's a way that we can stay, up to date on trends, but also talk about the goodness of oats. Then let's look at this is next section are a lot of trends that I see with swapping. So I'm a little, biased because I have a book about swaps. So I do love swaps. But flour swaps you see a lot using old fashioned or quick oats. And in the picture on the left-hand side with me looking so happy with my blender, I'm putting old fashioned oats in there and just pulsing it until it's a flour texture. For a lot of people, that is mind blowing. They did not know that they could make their own oat flour in just that one easy step. So that was a real important post that I did talking about the nutrition of oats and lured people in to talk about the oat flour. And for baking, usually it's up to 50% of your flour that you have, you can swap in the oat flour. Now, of course, anything you do with flour, you could use that mixture. But I was doing a little bit of the savory angle here with oat crackers. And of course, everything seasoning is so like hot, everybody talks about it. So I was like, okay, I could do something savory to show the versatility of oats. And then everything seasoning is hot. These are like tortillas or wraps, using the oat flour. And then somebody mentioned, or many people were mentioning about using oats for a pizza crust. So I used the gluten-free Quaker oats to do a pizza crust, but then I put it in the sort of like hot Instagram, how it started, how it's going format, to again, try and engage people in this trend, but also as a way to get them excited about affordable whole grain oats. Now, a rice swap is also something that you'll see on trend, and that is using, and I saw a lot of people put that in the comments too, steel cut oats here, because steel cut have more of that hearty and thick texture, so they hold up to recipes for like a risotto or a paella, or even like the soups and chilies I was seeing come through in the chat. Then we have a breadcrumb swap. Old fashioned, quick and instant work here. And where would you use breadcrumbs? This is where you could use that swap, right? So that's your chicken, your fish coating, veggie burgers or regular burgers, veggie meatballs. Somebody had meatloaf in the chat. Like, yes, all of those things you would normally think breadcrumbs, you can start thinking, oats also. And then this is the final of the trends that you see, right? Meal prep, meal prep, meal prep. Everybody talks about meal prep. And you know what? You could say, oh my gosh, old fashioned oats can really play in this trend because of the overnight oats. And this picture says overnight oats 3 ways. It's really overnight oats 3 billion ways, because there's so many different varieties you can do. And it helps people sort of feel like they're on board with this trend. So those were the 7 trends. That's really my, filling here of this particular sandwich, talking about trends. And now I have your call to action, right? Remembering the sandwich is the who cares, the ABC filling, and the call to action. So my call to action to you is to think about, where are you getting these trends? Like, how can you even keep up with trends, right? And so this is a list of some of the ways that I do. I just listen, right, to clients and friends and family when they have questions. I don't usually just roll my eyes. I think, wow, this is the third time I've heard this question. People really, this must be a trend that people are hearing about and want to know more about. Social media like BuzzFeed, that tasty and goodful arms of BuzzFeed are great for trends. Celebs do trendy things. And so it doesn't mean we have to do it how they're doing it. We can do it better. We see a trend and we're like, oh my gosh, that's not nutritionally sound. It's like, okay, cool. You can still ride that trend and tell people how to do it better, right? Or do it right. Popular newsletters like Mind, Body, Green, Well and Good, when I start seeing things pop up more regularly there, I say, oh gosh, this must be a upcoming trend. I better stay alert to it. And then I bet you do too, these professional sources like the Nutrition and Dietetics Smart Brief daily emails are awesome, because then you not only see other dietitians quoted in the media, but you see sort of ongoing trends of like, wow, new research is coming out about this. This would be a cool topic to work in oats too, for example. So that's my first call to action for you. Work on keeping up with trends in these ways or other ways that you've come up with. And then I have a second call to action. Number 2, do check out this Quaker Oats Center for Excellence. It's really a great resource for us as dietitians. One of my favorite things on there is called the Quaker Emerging Science. It's like a PDF. It's actually where I got most of my stats and research to do this webinar. So it's actually very good if you need to go back and refer to things. But in addition to all the research that's there, there's recipes there, there's client handouts, and even continuing education. So it is a great resource for us. I sure hope that you enjoyed hearing about oat trends and the oat nutrition and learning the oat sandwich and all of the differences and similarities of oats. And now, after we're so full from our 3 communication sandwiches, it is actually time to thank you for joining us and open it up to real Q&A now.
Well, thank you both, Dawn and Yifeng, for that wonderful presentation. For everyone on the line, my name is Kate. I'm a registered dietitian also and a member of the communications team at Quaker Oats, and I am going to be leading us through some Q&A with our speakers. So to start off, Yifeng, I have a question for you. I know you talked about our flaking process. So there was a question on the process to create quick cooking oats and if this differs from traditional old-fashioned oats.
Yeah, so basically, as I talked through, the difference between quick cooking oat and old-fashioned is just the thickness of the 2 rollers that we want to flake the oatmeal in the different thickness, so that can help us bring more different texture to our different product. But important to know is that all the nutrition, vitamins, mineral, fiber content are still the same regardless of the way how we process it, how we flake it.
Great. And then the next question, Dawn, is for you.
Okay.
We got a question about using old-fashioned and quick oats to create oat flour for various dishes, and just asking if that's something you could do with gluten-free oats or if that will affect the finished product.
Oh, that's smart. Oh, first, I like that whoever asked that question was listening, that there are, in fact, gluten-free varieties of Quaker Oats. So I think that's great, because I still know even a lot of dietitian pals who don't know that. So that's a great first question. And yeah, you can use them just like you would use the standard Quaker Oats. And in fact, I have both depending on what I'm doing in my cabinet. So they work similarly and great. And I love them in a smoothie and as flour.
Great. And then while we're talking about the different oat varieties, Dawn, I'll stick with you. Is there any reason, nutritionally speaking, that we should use or recommend steel cut oats instead of rolled oats or old-fashioned oats?
before I really understood, like before taking webinars like this and reading, I used to be that person who was like, oh my gosh, I'm all natural girl. Everybody's gonna do steel cut and like they have to take forever to make or whatever. And now I know that is just untrue. So I go back to saying, whatever you prefer, whatever you would eat regularly, do not worry, you can do whatever you like because they all are, as we talked about that, soundbite that I love, ounce for ounce, they're all very much 100% whole grain, which I think is great, and a good source of fiber. So, it's sort of like how we teach people about exercise too. The best exercise is the one you actually do. I feel like that same thing is with oats, that if somebody loves steel cut, we're going for it. And if somebody likes to run out the door with quick oats, like we're going for it.
Yeah, and I think too, in your section, you also talked about different culinary uses coming into play when you're picking the type of oat.
Yeah, it's a very good point. So I like the cheat sheet that I had on there first. It's a great place that I like people to even start. There are no real rules here, but there are some sort of like guidelines of like, okay, this turns out to be, a heartier or a sturdier thing. I could probably like this more in risotto or soup. This blends very easily. So quick oats might be, easy, or rolled oats easy in a smoothie. So I like to give them that cheat sheet so that they can start, feeling confident in choosing the oats for themselves. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Is that sometimes you have to make a call and suggest it just based on actual texture or the cooking time that people have.
Wonderful. And then the next question, Yifeng, I'm going to come back to you. We've gotten a few questions about the soluble fiber in oats and just asking if beta-glucan is unique to oats, and if 3 grams in oats lowers the risk of heart disease, how that equates to a serving of oats.
So a serving of oats, the health claim, the evidence we show back in 1990 to FDA to get the first food specific health claim is on 3 grams of oats. And FDA understand that it's hard to deliver 3 grams in one serving. So what's required is cut it in four. So 0.75 grams of oats of beta glucan. You can carry this claim. But what's in one serving of oatmeal is about 1.5 grams of beta glucan, so that should meet the FDA requirement of 0.75 grams of soluble fiber to deliver those benefits. And later we also find that consuming 3 grams of oatmeal per day, of beta glucan per day, will have a lot of additional benefits such as digestive health and also weight management. So it becomes very important what Don was talking about, have different recipes, different, you put that in the smoothie in the morning, you put that in the baked cookie in the afternoon, or find different ways to incorporate oat into your diet. It's very important because in addition to soluble fiber, there are wells of different bionutrients like minerals, magnesium, selenium, and also phytonutrient as well. That's also the full package that delivers. So you're not just, even though you're going for oat for the beta glucan, but actually if you have more oat incorporate into your diet, you are going to get a whole lot more benefit, not just the heart health.
Yeah, and if I could just tack on to that, I can't tell you how often I hear from clients, or I'll get a note that says, I don't know, I can't eat hot oatmeal every morning. It's like, what? You don't have to. There's a billion ways that you could do it. It's like one day it could be in your smoothie, one day it could be hot oatmeal, one day it's overnight oats, one day, so not only having a variety of ways to get it, to get all of the nutrition, but just because I think a lot of people don't even, a lot of us on here, right? In our chat, we're like, we know a million ways to use it. Everyday people don't necessarily, our consumers, our audience, our clients don't necessarily have that same food creativity.
That's a great point. And, as you mentioned, overnight oats and putting oats in smoothies, we have received a couple questions about the safety of consuming uncooked oats. So did want to throw that out to Yifeng to help answer that question.
Yeah, I think we have the very industry-leading safety protocol in place. So if you are consuming, you're buying the oatmeal, you should try ours, because big company like ours, we have different steps to ensure that the oatmeal that's on your table is of the highest standard of both quality. We ensure the beta glucan is there by spending a lot of analysis, a lot of thought into designing how do we decide to put into that can that meets the minimum. I know many of competitors probably don't have the resource to do that. Same apply to the food safety, that every package that's going out of the door have go through the most rigorous process of examining all the potential negative aspects. So I would trust our product a lot. But after you prepare, this is probably off our hands. A lot of people prepare it different ways. I guess you just have to use your senses to determine how you want to. You want to be safe when you are preparing. Don't put it for too long, or just not exposed to any contaminant.
Okay. And so our next question is just a refresher on what part of the oat kernel the groat comes from. So Yifeng, if you want to answer that one for us.
So what part? So oat is very unique. It's the whole kernel we call groat. Is whole grain. It's compared to wheat and rice. The bran is less edible. So during the process, you have to get those most nutritious part out. So you only have the starchy part, which is the white rice, which is the oat flour, white flour. For oat, it's a different story. The whole groat outside the whole, it's covered by whole. So if you get rid of the whole, the inside part called groat, it is a whole grain compared to, and it's edible. It's good for us to process. So you get the benefit of whole grain from oat compared to other grain product. That's most edible part is refined part. It's not whole grain. So that's one unique part about oatmeal that you can consume as a whole grain. So the most nutritious part, the oat bran have a lot of vitamin, minerals, soluble fiber, also concentrate in those oat bran part. That's all part of the oatmeal, regardless of how you process. You can flake it thin, you can flake it, you can just cut it. All the nutrition is still there.
Right. So like when you were showing that slide where it's like oat groat is this high on the thing, and then depending on if you're steaming it or if you're rolling it or whatever, but it all of the varieties start with that groat.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Don, I feel like you'll love this fun fact, but our millers often call the groat an oat without its coat because the hull is that outer layer. So that's another easy way to remember what the groat is. It's the whole grain minus that outer hull or coat, as they like to refer to it.
Thank you for that. Yes, of course, I do like that. Anything rhymey and sing-songy that people can remember. I mean, just like, so much nutrition information, people, they don't eat it. So we've got to like talk about real foods. Same thing when you're talking about any of this. It's like, if people don't remember it, like what good is it to talk about this? Yes.
Exactly. And then Yifeng, one more question for you while I have you. Can you share a little bit on the benefits of Oat Bran compared to oatmeal?
Right. So Oat Bran is really, like I just mentioned, highly concentrated in those nutrients. And oatmeal is the Oat Bran. Oat Bran is the oat growth, but we get rid of a little bit of the starchy part, so it's more the nutrition is more concentrated. For me, Oat Bran is probably one of the healthiest product on earth, because you have all the nutrition from the oats without some of the starch, which just provide calories, provide some sustenance to keep you energy, keep you going. But nutrient part, the fiber part, the mineral part is less concentrated in the starchy part. So oatmeal is the oat growth is the whole oatmeal. Oat Bran is just the outer layer that's very nutrient rich. So if you have a recipe or anything that can incorporate Oat Bran in there, you are getting a really good, a lot of benefit from the ingredient.
Thank you. And then Dawn, coming back to you, you shared a lot of great ways to stay on top of the trends in your presentation. And we had a question on if you have any tips for how to do that without spending all day online.
Thank you for that. That's a productivity hack, right? Like, how do you not just scroll and scroll and scroll? You know, I do think that I start a lot with that daily email. Every day I do read that daily email. I think that's a great place to start. And while I'm sort of goofing around, I also use myself as a sort of marker when I scroll, you know, just while I'm doing my everyday stuff for myself. I think, oh, that's interesting. Lizzo is doing that. And I think, I could do it better. I should do that. So, you know, I don't necessarily plot out huge chunks of my day, but I do always make sure, and I guess like Well and Good and that Mind Body Green. I probably read those 3 emails every day. You know, what is that? Maybe takes 15 minutes, scroll for 15 minutes or more. and then really, I think that, you know, those emails probably help because they're front of mind. You know, you're in your email all the time anyway. So you click and you read through the day and that's it. I don't know if that totally helped you because now that I think of it, I do spend quite some time doing it. But you know what? If I find it interesting, usually my audience does too.
Yeah, and it sounds like from what I'm hearing, you kind of have your go-to resources, but then, and you see those every day, but then you're also balancing that kind of across the day of like other sources of information. So you're kind of prioritizing those go-tos at least.
Kate, I want to change my answer to that. Exactly what she said. That's right. That's exactly right. You studied me. It's like I have the priorities in my inbox. And then whatever else catches my eye, even if I'm out with girlfriends or, you know, at a restaurant and I go, oh my gosh, like, look at that on the menu. That's a trend, you know? So thank you for saying that so eloquently.
Wonderful. And then I'm going to stick with you. We had another question about the recommended amount of oats per day, which I know we don't really have a specific oat recommendation, but hoping you can maybe elaborate on recommendations for whole grains.
Well, here's what I can tell you. Usually when I talk about a serving of oats. Like, so if people say, you know, hey, I want to at least make sure that I'm getting 1 serving of oats, then I say, okay, then it's uncooked. Are you eating a 1/2 cup of the quick, a 1/2 cup of the rolled, or a 1/4 cup of the steel cut? So I sort of, we start there as like, you know, again, not like, this is how much you have to get, and this is, you know, the huge goals of all of your fiber or anything. It's just like, hey, could you just get 1 serving? and that's a good check mark to start.
I love that. Approachable, easy steps to start making small changes. We are getting close on time, it looks like. So just a couple reminders for everyone. I believe there will be a follow-up email coming up that will include the slides. So it'll include some of the references for staying on top of trends that Dawn has mentioned and a lot of the great research that Yifeng went through. So that should be coming after the webinar. And I will turn it back over to Kelly.
Thank you so much. Yes, we will send you all the slides, the recording, as well as information about your CPEU certificate within 1 week. And you can also visit our website, oldwayspt.org/CPEU. That's where we'll be posting it as well. So thank you so much to our speakers. And with that, thank you. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Goodbye.